I'm Kim Kirk, and we're on the back half of the 10 things I learned from Peter. Here are the first 5. God gives us what we need to do what he calls us to do. Outcome doesn't always reflect effort. A perceived failure can actually be a great success. Even though we don't have it all together, God can speak through us. We don't know better than Jesus. And the 6th, sometimes we just need to be silent. Well, I love Peter because I can really relate to him. He and I have very similar personalities and weaknesses, and we both tend to talk too much at times. We've already seen Peter use his mouth for good and for not so good. Today, we're going to see him say things at times when he shouldn't have said anything at all, something all of us have probably, unfortunately, done. At the beginning of this series, I had mentioned that Peter was part of Christ's inner circle that also included James and John. And one of the things that only the 3 of them were invited to was the Mount of Transfiguration. This is where Jesus was transformed before them and they got to glimpse his glory. And Moses and Elijah, 2 Old Testament figures who represent the law and the prophets, were with him and they were talking together, the 3 of them. And then we get to Mark chapter 9, verses 5 and 6. And Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you and one for Moses and one for Elijah." For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Sometimes when we don't know what to say, we should say nothing at all. Then we get to the Passover meal, and Jesus humbles himself and washes his disciples' feet. A beautiful and solemn moment until he got to Peter. John 13, verses 6 to 9. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, do you wash my feet?" Jesus answered him, "What I am doing you do not understand, but afterward you will understand." Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "If I do not wash you, you have no share in me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." There's times we just need to take in the moment and go with the flow without uttering a word. Our final passage for today is in the last chapter of the Gospel of John. Peter decides to go fishing, and several of the disciples join him. After this post-resurrection miraculous catch, Jesus has breakfast with these men. And then he has an encounter with Peter where he asks him 3 times, "Do you love me?" And each one is followed by a call to service. This kind of balances out, it's a reinstatement of the 3 times that Peter denied Jesus. Then we get to John 21, verses 18 to 21. Jesus is speaking. "Truly I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go." This he said to show by what kind of death he was to glorify God. After saying this, he said to him, "Follow me." Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them. When Peter saw him, he said to Jesus, "Lord, what about this man?" Amidst this precious and powerful time with the Lord, Peter got distracted and asked about the fate of John. It just reminds me of when my kids were little and they were doing something they shouldn't, and I disciplined one of them, say my son, and out of his mouth would come those words, "Well, what about her? What about her?" It's understandable, humanly speaking, but it's not necessary. When it comes to talking, less is often better, and sometimes silence is golden. Please come back tomorrow for some more encouragement and maybe even a little bit of conviction from the life of Peter.